So I think it's good evening, esteemed guests. So I am Vivek Tiwari, founder and CEO of Medikabazar. With me, my co-presenter, Mr. Rajendra Kadu is there. He is from Hosconnn Consulting Services. He is the principal consultant. So Hosconnn is also partners to Medikabazar for service delivery, and we are tied up in other business associations as well. So together we are going to take you through an interesting presentation on the future of procurement into medical institutions. I think that's where lot of good leverages are there in terms of looking at cost and delivery model in healthcare. So before I take you to the core presentation, let me just briefly take you through my journey in healthcare. So I'm essentially for last 5-6 years I'm in healthcare, but I'm essentially a management guy. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I did my MBA from IIM Calcutta. I was into Tata Strategic Management Group. While working with Tatas, I picked up a lot of management insights into how to manage large size businesses. But I started my journey in healthcare with a personal tragedy. My grandmother expired, and we've come from a very small family in UP, very small place. We did not have the right institution to treat her, and that pushed me into getting into healthcare. So while thinking about getting into healthcare and joining healthcare, I ended up launching dialysis clinics in the country. So in 2012, I started working on launching dialysis clinics, and while doing that, I realized the first discovery, that there is no price conscience into medical devices. I hear someone telling me sometime, and I also fail to understand that why medical devices as a category did not carry any MRP till some time back before it was imposed. We have MRP for biscuits, we have MRP for water bottles also, but why medical devices? I think that's where I tell you one category of product like hemodialyzer being sold at different prices across the country. I think that itself is a challenging question to be addressed, that why do we have such dependence on physical procurement and leveraging the pricing in the hands of distributors. The second discovery I had while doing this was the supply chain issues. We have the best distribution for cigarettes in this country, Coca-Cola in this country, but we do not have distribution for syringes and medical devices. I fail to understand why this should be left out as such life-sustaining category. So challenges in terms of looking at supply chain, you just ask any manufacturer, what percentage of your cost goes into distribution and supply chain, and he will just tell you the numbers, and you will be surprised and amazed to see that. And I realized why we did not have something like Medikabazar at that point of time, or something which could give me a leveraging strength in terms of looking at order size. The third discovery was we did not have information about the brands or products. We found enough knowledge about the shirts, different kind of lifestyle products on e-commerce websites, but we did not have enough knowledge or awareness on medical devices and medical category of products. That itself was big challenging thing to look at when we talk about covering the masses into inclusive healthcare. We talk about making healthcare affordable, but we don't know exactly what are the options available. So with these challenges, I started this journey, and I'm going to take you through an interesting session and telling you more about why there could be a kind of strong leverage in terms of looking at e-procurement as a channel for medical devices. So India is an interesting market. Everybody talked about Indian healthcare. I think we discussed about the opportunity in terms of looking at number of hospital beds in the country. We need 3 million beds to reach the global standards. We are already growing in double digit. We have growth about 16-17% in healthcare. We are touching greater heights in healthcare. We are one of the largest in terms of looking at the market size. We are going to be amongst top 3 shortly globally. We are more than 25% population is covered through health insurance. I think that's not a great number to look at. If you need look at global average, it's about 80-90%. But still, there's a long way to go. I think with inclusive healthcare plans like Modi Care and covering the masses into healthcare insurance is going to give us a lot of strength in terms of affordability. One of the best thing what has happened in recent years was 100% FDI in medical devices. When we talk of Make in India, we just do not talk about indigenous manufacturers. We also talk about manufacturers who can come and start manufacturing in India. AMTZ is one of the pioneers into creating a kind of technology park into manufacturing. We all are aware of this. I don't need to brief you on the size. I think we are touching 300 billion in next 5 years. If that's the size of the business we are talking, then I think we need lot of leveraging in terms of technology, because any business cannot be sustained for long if it is not leveraged on technology. The size of medical and healthcare devices or so-called hospital supplies market in India today is at about $37 billion. I think it's going to touch $100 billion in next 5 years with a kind of hospital growth happening. That itself is a large number to look at, and with more and more complexity on growth in tier 2-3 cities, leveraging distribution pattern or e-procurement could be a preferable channel in future. Let's talk on certain numbers. In 90s, we just had about 11,000 hospitals. Somebody was talking about 40,000 numbers in hospitals. Somebody tells me about 1 lakh plus numbers. Somewhere it is written as 200,000 plus. So I take the numbers which I get maximum. So in 2018, as of now, the data from different sources are available to prove that we have more than 200,000 numbers of healthcare facilities to look at, which include hospitals, government hospitals, medical colleges, blood banks, primary healthcare centers, and so on and so forth. So this itself is such a vast number of customers to serve and to make sure that they are not left with any kind of leveraging in terms of availing medical supplies or medical devices. In the present or in the past, we have seen lot of trends, emerging trends in healthcare. I just don't need to explain them, but in case if you want to learn more about it, I would just request Mr. Kadu to take you through some of the trends in the present trends in healthcare and how the future trends would look like.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. So it's a very interesting topic, like moving to the future of medical procurement, and it's obvious online is the solution. But if we look to the present situation, it nowhere looks near that it is actually heading to an online procurement. And the present trends exactly like are talking in a very different manner. So my first observation, what has happened is online right now, presently, is more used for searching the availability and prices and having more than one options for purchase. That is what basically they want to know the first thing traditionally. So they are using most of the online websites for information search. That is the present trend. So of course it's a one-way positive trend for the online purchase. Second thing is, traditionally the purchase has been done in a kind of a very slow manner. What happens, a doctor decides to buy the medical equipment at the last stage of the hospital completion. So when the hospital is almost near complete, he has already taken the challenges of building and everything. Then he goes for a medical equipment purchase decision. So by that time it is too late, and there is very little coordination happening for medical planning and the equipment purchase decision. So doctor goes by word of mouth or some reference. He has relationship with some consultant, or he has given a word. So he keeps his word. So that is not a very professional way of buying the equipment. So what happens because of this, the purchase kind of time required are very small at the last moment, and they cannot complete the methodological process of equipment purchase. So the chain of decision making is very, very long. The user doctor is involved in decision making, consultants also are involved, owner himself is involved, financer is also involved. So this takes a lot of time, which is not kind of really going to help for an online quick decision, even if the online equipment purchase option is available. So taking on to this, basically I will again go back to hand it over to Vivek, so that he will talk more about the future.
Thank you, Mr. Kadu. So essentially, looking at the future trends in healthcare, I think the cost in healthcare delivery is of paramount importance. We see many hospitals, and in one of the conferences I was hearing one of the very leading promoter of a large hospital talking more about the sustainability, and he was talking from the point that he had a suggestion that why is opening up hospital, why not taking up hospitals or taking over hospitals which are non-sustainable or which are not able to sustain themselves just because of the cost. I think that's where, if we have to compare healthcare delivery cost in India vis-a-vis the markets which are US or European markets, I think somewhere we are very low in comparison, but is still unaffordable. I think that primarily speaks of the challenges we have in healthcare industry today. So delivery cost is going to be a challenge, and it has to be managed very well going forward. So I think that's where technology has to play a vital role. Artificial intelligence and technology advancements. We don't have such inclusive connected medical devices as of now. If we talk about HL level, HL7 compliance, we hardly have manufacturers which are giving access to medical devices, data recording, EMR, and all those stuff. So I think going forward, blockchain, artificial intelligence, Sarthak was talking more about technology, blockchain, other stuff. I think that's going to be the next round of future trend in healthcare. We'll come with more wearable digital devices, essentially looking from so-called monitoring devices to curative devices as well in future. We'll have non-invasive devices to look at. The devices which could be connected over internet, I think that's where the change in technology would make all the future impact in healthcare. Home-based healthcare is going to be next growth trend for Indian population, for the masses in India. We have seen a lot of large home healthcare providers being available in the country today, whether we talk about healthcare at home or Portia or any large chain of home healthcare services provider. I think that's where the future trend lies, and obviously looking at e-procurement as a favored channel in terms of looking at procurement in healthcare. So if we have to talk about the global comparables, I think somewhere we are nowhere near to Cardinal Health or Henry Schein or McKesson's of US markets, which have very strong aggregation and online digital procurement models. So why procurement management is critical for hospitals? I think somewhere it starts with harnessing different channels for procurement. So if we go and talk about e-healthcare, e-procurement, if we go and talk about e-catalog, if we go and talk about digitization in terms of discovery on products, no hospital says I am averse to it or I don't want to use it. In my personal experience of meeting more than 3,000 hospitals in the last 2 years, I can tell you nobody ever said that I am averse to e-procurement or I don't like it. It's only because he is averse to technology. He doesn't know how to handle technology. That is why he is averse to it. I think adoption and education is the key factor here. So we have to optimize on educating customers, telling them exactly why they should come into procurement, which is based on digital channel or electronic channel. It brings in a lot of transparency and sustainability, which itself is big challenging and Herculean subject today. Pricing, sustainable pricing, availability of stocks, vendors, I think that itself is so humongous. Resource management, hospitals spend a lot of time and energy in just finalizing rates, yearly contracts, identifying vendors, vendor management, compliances, issues relating to vendor management. There are a lot of issues around it. I think that's where we are wasting a lot of time, energy and resources doing it. Big data and predictive analysis. If you get into hospitals, if you just ask him, Do you have a procurement pattern? Do you know what are you going to procure for next 6 months? Do you have many hospitals would do that internally, but it's all just made for one or maybe few chains which have spent crores and crores buying SAP-based softwares or Ariba, which is more than $1 million in pricing. Small hospitals can't even afford it. But we have to realize that 70% of population is stay in places which are driven by smaller hospitals and so-called medium and smaller size healthcare units, which can't afford these type of things. So I think somewhere an inclusive growth has to happen, wherein a platform could offer them leverage on the technology which could build a predictive procurement modeling in place, which will help hospitals build a lot of efficiency looking at managing their stocks, inventory, and also ordering online. It brings in a lot of cash management and cash flow improvements. Hospitals don't need to invest heavily into stocks. Many a times, hospitals do have stocks, but they are lost where the stocks are kept, and they keep on ordering. Sometime during the year-end audit, they realize there is a huge line of inventory lying at one corner of the hospital, which is either near short expiry, or they have not discovered it in the last 1 year because the procurement or the purchase officer or the purchase assistant didn't do right audits on time for stocks. I think that itself is a loss in terms of looking at cash management. Supply chain efficiency, and also with tax regulations, there are multiple levels of issues around it. If you do purchases through different vendors, multiple vendors, there are different levels of GST related issues. Now e-way bill is coming from effective 1st April. I think that's where the consolidation has to happen, and people need to realize about the procurement channels. So as an offline business on procurement, what challenges institutions normally face? So I think we have spoken all the challenges quite in detail, but just for summing it up, I think availability and accessibility is a major challenge, and I have been a bit witness to it. I have seen even we had to stop treatments sometime when we see that stocks are not there, or we are delayed in getting stocks, especially in smaller places. It's not about getting in Mumbai or Delhi. You have a lot of options, but you just go maybe 300 kilometers away from here in a place like Wasim and Akola, and you see the challenges going. So I think that's where a lot of challenges are there. Inefficient inventory management, as I've spoken about it results into lot of working capital block happening with hospitals. Data is nowhere to be seen, so there's a lot of issues relating to predictive modeling or issues relating to procurement management in hospitals. Operational cost is high. There's a lot of issues around local vendors charging overpricing. So obviously it builds into a lot of cost in terms of operations. Lack of responsiveness from multiple stakeholders. I think with different kind of intermediaries into distribution, we have wholesalers, we have distributors, we have lot of small time suppliers. I think that's where the responsiveness with multiple stakeholders are always questionable. Lengthy order processing time. Hospitals believe in putting order, make a purchase order, send it back to vendor take their own sweet time to deliver the product. It is very cumbersome process. Sooner or later hospitals would realize what's the timeline involved into this, and they have started realizing it, by the way, and many a times they have to do multiple follow-ups before the delivery is done. And obviously it leads to high turnaround time. I think for manufacturers also it makes a lot of sense to start looking e-procurement as a channel, because the distribution cost, when you talk about setting up distributors, putting team in place, and the cost of distribution is very, very high. Especially looking at a small manufacturer who has just started and he has very small turnover, he can't afford to have a force like a Hindustan Unilever or an ITC to cover the nook and corner of the country. I think that's where he has to depend a lot on intermediaries, sub-distributors, wholesalers, multiple sellers, and that's where every stage the cost gets added up. And eventually when it reaches hospital, it is more than 40–50% higher. So if in the absence of a digital channel, this is a pure loss of efficiency and added cost to the hospital. I've spoken about physical outreach. Today, it is very difficult to reach out to northeastern markets or places in J&K or different remote locations in the country. FedEx, being such a widespread coverage today, just covers about 12 to 13,000 pin codes, and most of the pin codes are not even covered on cash on delivery in e-commerce too. So we are talking, and especially if you look at India Post today, they will tell you that we cover 24,000 pin codes, but they hardly could deliver and they would provide efficiency on time. So I think that's where leveraging on digital channel is very, very important. Manpower retention appointment is a challenging task for manufacturers. Many a times they bear huge cost in terms of looking at manpower appointments, retention of manpower, efficiency in terms of looking at sales turnover around. So this could be a huge challenge for them. And overall, if we talk about supply chain, product launch issue, so if you actually know the medical devices manufacturing cycle, so when a manufacturer or when an inventor actually or innovator thinks of launching a medical device, he would start with a prototype, then get on to multiple iterations over the prototype, gets into clinical trial, then gets into multiple clinical trials across different regions, or then going to different countries, gets into certifications, and after that he's left with nothing. He would have spent millions and millions of dollars just doing this. After that he would have nothing to look into distribution, then he starts looking for funds for manufacturing, distribution and all that, and it's very difficult to get funds in India. So looking at this, I think beyond that, if he has to again invest into people, manpower, appoint distributors, look at launching a product in India, it's going to be very difficult, and many people are not able to scale up. They face a lot of difficulties in terms of looking at reaching out to the market. So that's where I think digital channel can help them. If we have to talk about in US market today, most of innovators in US would straightway put their products to Cardinal or Henry Schein or any other digital channel available in US or European markets. I think that's where they leverage in terms of their timeline, reaching out to customers in no time and also getting a lot of orders instantly. And poor accessibility, multiple customer expectation, I think that's already taken care of. So what could be the benefit of e-procurement process? So I think the primary benefit is always looking at reduction in cost, because digital platform could be very efficient in terms of looking at the best pricing. There could be transparent spending, lot of elimination of paperwork. Many hospitals, if you just get into tier 2-3 cities, you will see the piles and piles of paperwork just lying there. For years, they have not been able to do anything around it. The old invoices lying for a lot of buying which has happened in hospital, and they just need to retain the copies. Normally, they would scan and keep those copies, but they need to still maintain so many files. They don't have a dashboard or something as if available which could give them every purchase data available there, and they could access that anytime. I think that's where digital plays a vital role. That increases productivity in hospitals. Faster order execution too, because if you have better productivity, if you have access to such a large set of information, your order could be processed faster. You have better buying pattern, lot of reduction in errors, and ultimately it all leads to reduction in cost. So I'll just play a small video. There are two videos to be played, one for hospitals and one for there's no music.
Purchasing a hassle-free and delightful experience for hospitals, clinics, doctors, and individuals. You can compare products, find specifications, download price quotations, and buy online instantly. You also get to learn about new innovative medical technology products. You can also schedule a call with our product specialists, provide product feedback online, and rate a product too. With unique features like Medica Recycle, a unique buying and selling platform for used medical equipment, and instant finance options to fund purchases. Medikabazar is a complete ecosystem of medical supplies.
Next one.
want more customers? How do you reach your customers? Maybe appointing teams or distributors and increasing overheads? Well, now you can time it down. Why not use Medikabazar digital platform for your medical supply business? India's largest online aggregator in medical supplies. Now, you can reach out to thousands of customers daily in no time. First, visit our sign-up page and just enter all the relevant details. List your products online. Second, customer orders online and you get instant order response. Third, customer buys the product and makes the payment online. Fourth, the product will be shipped to your customer's address or Medikabazar fulfillment center. Fifth, you get settlements and payments on time. We support your business with continuous marketing, reward program and free shipping. You also get unique account manager for your business, customer service staff and account summary, which is an add-on benefit. The benefits you have with us include easy setup, processing, continuous support, and established customer base, and of course, free listings. So, what are you waiting for? Start selling online. Sell on Medikabazar.
So with these two videos, I just wanted to explain exactly what we are doing as a company, as an enterprise. We are enabling hospitals reduce the unwarranted resources and time and cost in terms of looking at procurement, and also enabling manufacturers look at a larger customer base without even thinking more about the cost of distribution involved. So what essentially we do, we connect manufacturers with the real buyers with improved SCM, reduction in interaction time, seamless distribution, easy finance, EMI options. I think somewhere we are bringing a lot of efficiency in CapEx by more than 25%. We have handled projects in smaller hospitals and we have a lot of customer credentials with us, wherein we are able to give them a very good efficiency in terms of their optimization on capital. So if I have to add global comparables, I think I already discussed about Cardinal Health, Henry Schein and Mackesson. I've spoken in many forums, but if I have to ask you what could be the turnover of Johnson & Johnson today, any guesses? Johnson & Johnson Medical today, or maybe Medtronics today, globally. So these are all large medical suppliers, medical manufacturer. So if we have to compare their turnover with Cardinal Health or with Mackesson or with Henry Schein, I think they are nowhere. They're just about 1/3 of what these companies have done, but we hardly know their names. I think that's where, because they have leveraged their strength in terms of reaching out to customers and make sure that they have a large aggregated model. So these are some numbers what we do, and just to create an impact that why e-procurement channel is increasing. And this is a proof of fact that we have more than 9,000 customers, and in future many such customers would come to us. This may be just a smaller hospitals, clinics, or looking at a small nursing home, but in future a lot of customers are looking at this as a preferred procurement channel. We have a very good team in place. Few of our team members are here. We have global board of advisors too from different countries. This is Medikabazar, and we prefer e-procurement as a preferred channel for medical distribution. Thank you so much. Any questions, please? Sorry, yeah. You can come, Mr. Kadu.
See, all these years, I have spent almost 25 years in a manufacturing area. I had my firm called Concept Integrations, manufacturing critical care items. So having an experience of what it takes for a manufacturer to sell his product, so that with that background, and now I am a consultant to the hospitals for their procurement consultancy on medical equipment. So having seen both the sides, I appreciate and realize the kind of online sale requirement of the medical equipment. So having experienced all that thing, we basically are very happy to get associated with Medikabazar. So I would like to thank Vivek personally for this declaration of our association between Hosconnn and Medikabazar. And thanks to all of you for patient listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vivek Tiwari and Mr. Rajendra Kadu, for your advices and opinions. Further, I would like to invite Mr. Jitendra Sharma to please come up on the stage and give the certificates to Mr. Vivek Tiwari and Mr. Rajendra Kadu. I would request everybody to please give a round of applause. One more. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much.